We are focusing on fentanyl with enormous urgency. In this case, and these cases across the country are part of that urgency. Here for us locally, HSI was the lead federal investigator, so I'm going to turn it over to Special Agent Hammer to describe more of the investigation.
Hey, good afternoon. Robert Hammer with HSI. I first want to start out by thanking U.S. Attorney Nick Brown and his narcotics prosecutors. As since the day that he has arrived, they have made a cognizant effort to send a message to the fentanyl traffickers in this district that they will be prosecuted, and today's announcements demonstrates his commitments to those words. I'd also like to thank our key partners here in Seattle that made this operation possible, including DEA that's standing here with me today, FBI, ATF, Seattle Police Department, Oak Harbor Police Department, as well as the Island County Sheriff's Office. All were instrumental in making this a multi-jurisdictional enforcement event possible. Collectively, we continue to demonstrate that we are stronger when we work together, and it's truly going to take a village if we're going to combat this crisis. Today is a great day in our effort to diminish these organizations that continue to plague our streets and communities with fentanyl. There are 90 defendants, some facing multiple levels of charges in this multi-phase national operation, with 8 of them right here in Seattle. This national operation has exposed the links that these cartel fentanyl trafficking organizations will go to in order to get the pills into this country and into our communities. Whether it's cars, packages, or even checked luggage coming into SeaTac on an almost daily basis, this organization has saturated our communities with the fentanyl. It is estimated that over 1 million pills per month were coming in by this organization. And to demonstrate the brazenness of this organization, I'll give you an anecdote. When we went in to arrest one of these individuals, one of these suitcases came flying out the window onto the street because they have so many of these suitcases of fentanyl that they've brought into this region. You know, I think earlier this week, all of us were moved by the testimony in Congress by the mother that lost her 2 children to overdoses from fentanyl. All of us have seen the mental health crisis that is taking place downtown right now. These are the organizations that are flooding the fentanyl into our communities, that are enabling this pain and suffering. But these organizations don't care about the pain and suffering. As you can see by the cash, the luxury items, the expensive cars, they are in this for one thing: the profit. And as you can see from the weapons that we have recovered, some of them from suspected murderers, and others who local law enforcement themselves say have been involved in violence since they were juveniles. They will protect this business through their violence and intimidation. The photo over here with the weapons, with over 20-something firearms, includes assault rifles, some of which have been modified to be fully automatic, silencers, ghost guns. This organization ran the gamut when it came to firearms. This is the level of violence that is being brought to our community and being faced by law enforcement on a daily basis. But our work does not stop here, and law enforcement cannot solve this problem alone. We must continue to educate our communities, our children, and our parents about the deadly dangers of fentanyl. We must look at the causes that drive the demand side of this equation. We have to do this because the cartels are literally banking on the fact that we won't. And I'll turn it over to Special Agent in Charge, Jay Calvin, from the DEA.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Nick. My remarks are short, but first I'd like to thank all the personnel from Homeland Security, the FBI, and the DEA throughout the country whose efforts have led us here today. From our DEA labs, we see that 6 out of 10 of these fake pills contain a lethal dose of fentanyl. With the seizure of the 27 kilograms of fentanyl pills in a Seattle apartment here, we potentially saved 162,000 lives. Because of our combined efforts and law enforcement partnerships, the Puget Sound area is a safer place. Thank you.
And with that, we'll take any questions you have.
Jacob, you mentioned the potency of the pills. That has gotten increasingly worse over the years, correct? Can you come up back to the podium?
We have seen the potency increase. A lethal dose, we consider 2 milligrams. Approximately last year, it was at 2.3. Now it's about 2.4 grams that we're seeing in 6 out of 10 pills.
And that's dead.
Lethal dose is 2 milligrams, and we're seeing between 2.3 and 2.4, yes.
Can you tell us, the people who were arrested, is this kind of the retail level people doing the sales on the street, or are they higher up? Can you just give a sense of, out of these 90, kind of how significant they are?
Well, I can't speak for all 90 defendants. I mean, we're always focused on as high up in a cartel organization operation as we can go. the types of folks that we have here are the mid-level distributors, redistributors. So we're not talking about people dealing small amounts on the streets. We're certainly not talking about drug users on the streets. We work our way up to try to get as high up as we can. And I think with the sort of national approach that we've taken here, some very significant players were arrested and indicted.
Is it enough to dismantle this coast-to-coast ring?
No, I mean, fighting cartels is an ongoing effort, and we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves in talking about dismantling. We're really focused on doing everything we can to disrupt these organizations. Anytime that you can arrest as many people and charge as many people as we have across the country, it's going to have an impact, but the work is going to be ongoing. So getting to the point that Special Agent Hammer was talking about, we have to be focused on this and diligent and keep fighting this battle.
You mentioned luggage at SeaTac. Were they using commercial flights to transport these drugs?
That's what Hammer can talk more about it. But.
Yeah, no, we do have information related to multiple, again, I said daily, checked baggage by passengers coming into SeaTac as one of their methodologies to introduce the fentanyl into this region. And so you talk about, is this a dismantlement? I think there's other things that have been learned. Every investigation is an insight into cartel operations. This helps us expose their transportation methodology, leveraging SeaTac here in this region. And of course, we'll be following up on those leads, looking at how those vulnerabilities existed and hoping to close those gaps.
The cartels, where are they located?
I mean, the vast majority of cartels that we are dealing with are Mexico-based cartels.
Going back to the photos, you mentioned a suitcase thrown out the window. Was that like onto the street? Can you just tell us a little bit more about that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it just shows the saturation of the amount of drugs that they have, especially as it comes to the suitcases in this region. But when our special response team went in to serve the search warrant, out of the second-story window comes flying a suitcase out the window onto the sidewalk, like the individual was going to abdicate their ownership of the suitcase by tossing it out the window onto the street. An entire suitcase full of fentanyl just right out onto the sidewalk.
In that bottom photo where we see the vehicles, it's like it's a port. Is there any more information on what that is?
So those are vehicles that we seized from the organization that were ill-gotten gains, as well as the money. We've gotten close to $1 million in cash from this organization, as well as these vehicles as well. And again, other offices around the country are again looking at the profits and any type of ill-gotten gains in order to seize those as well.
Does this organization have a name?
Well, we don't get into the organization. I'll talk about the cartels. We have tied this back to the Sinaloa cartel. There are connects back to Mexico and the Sinaloa cartel.
What tipped you onto the individuals that were arrested here and monitoring them for the past several months?
Yeah, so I mean, again, this was an ongoing investigation that took place in multiple districts. There was a wiretap that was taking place, and through that wiretap, it was able to illuminate the network across the country. A piece of that network was here in Seattle, and then we coordinated with our offices that were executing the wiretap in order to further the investigation for the Seattle region.
Robert, can you, for people who may not understand the magnitude of the Sinaloa cartel, can you talk about their reach and their power?
I mean, I think money is power, and they have a lot of it. They have a lot of political influence in Mexico. They have a lot of geographical control in Mexico. And so I think, whether it's CJ&G, whether it's Sinaloa, whether it's any of the other Mexican cartels down there, they're a business. They have an entire logistical operation related to supply, finances, transportation, you name it. They operate like a corporation, and they have the money to back it up.
There's sometimes talk about fentanyl or the ingredients to make it coming from China. Are there any links to China in this investigation?
Well, I don't want to talk specifically about this investigation, but I think, what you're alluding to is the fact that a lot of the fentanyl-related substances, the binding agents, the presses, the molds, the dyes, we've seen a lot of those coming from China, and those chemicals coming in either directly from China to Mexico, or China being transshipped to another country into Mexico. But there is a lot of intelligence as well as factual basis of fentanyl substances coming into or at least substances coming from China playing a role in the fentanyl that's coming into the United States.
You mentioned the wiretaps. Was that over the course of the entire 10 months? How long did that last in this case?
I don't have the specifics on how long that wiretap was up. I know that that's being handled out of our office in Pennsylvania.
And when the arrests were made, were the raids all at once over the last 3 days, or did you coordinate that?
This has been a coordinated effort involving multiple offices across the country, and that were all arrested this week.
Where in Seattle?
Where?
Where in Seattle will the arrest be? Like, is there a specific neighborhood?
Oh, there were multiple search warrants and arrests taking place all throughout Seattle.
How did this Mexican organization
Well, I think across the country, a lot of the drugs were being funneled through Arizona, especially Hammer talked about the multitude of ways. And certainly what we're seeing is that the way cartels operate these days, they don't rely on one mode of transportation or one input into the United States. But a lot of the drugs that were related to this investigation were finding their origin place in the United States and Arizona and then being spread out to other states here, Pennsylvania, and other places. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.